Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You came here today because you're looking for real financial transformation, and you know the answer isn't just another budgeting app. Today, our mission is really focused. We are doing a genuine deep dive into the core differences between what we call a scarcity or survival mindset and a wealthy or abundance mindset. And we're not talking about simple tips and tricks here. We're talking about the internal blueprint that, dictates every single financial choice you make.
And that blueprint, that mindset is so critical. It's basically the operating system for your financial life. The research we've looked at is really clear on this. This isn't just motivational fluff. It is the hidden architecture behind your habits, your beliefs, and ultimately your financial future. It really determines whether you see a door of opportunity or just a brick wall.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest takeaway we want you to have right from the start is this huge shift in thinking about cause and effect. Most people believe you get a wealthy mindset after you become successful, but all our sources argue the exact opposite.
Right. People gain money because they learn to think differently first.
Exactly. So this deep dive is all about teaching you the 7 core habits and the psychological patterns of wealthy thinkers so you can start installing that identity today, no matter what your bank account looks like.
We'll be breaking down those 7 distinctions, everything from long-term planning, how you value skills, and something that's really crucial, how wealthy thinkers use discomfort as a signal for growth, not a reason to run away.
Okay, let's unpack that foundation first, because it really does flip the script on how most of us approach personal finance. We're sort of taught to wait for the money, right? Wait for the stability, and then we'll get our heads right. But the source material is adamant.
Yeah.
The mindset is the prerequisite.
It is the absolute prerequisite. And, to be blunt, money does not solve a scarcity mindset. It just pours fuel on whatever belief system you already have.
So if you're afraid of losing money, more money just means more fear.
Exactly. Think about it. If you're operating from a place of fear, a big windfall will only amplify your terror of losing it. You'll become more anxious, paralyzed even. Money doesn't create confidence. Confidence creates the foundation that lets money work for you.
So we need to look at any current financial struggles, not as a personal failure, but maybe as evidence of this survival program running in the background. What exactly is that? Where does it come from?
The survival program is a very effective but ultimately limiting piece of psychological code. It develops pretty naturally when you grow up in an environment where money is all about stress, anxiety, arguments.
Right, and the threat of things getting shut off.
Right. Utilities, housing, food insecurity. When that's your reality, your brain isn't wired for opportunity. It's wired for immediate threat assessment and, minimizing risk at all costs.
That sounds completely exhausting, but also perfectly logical given the circumstances.
It is entirely logical, but the cost is huge. When you're running that survival program, your focus is entirely short term. It's just about surviving the week. You can't cognitively afford the luxury of thinking about investing or skill building. Every ounce of your mental energy is focused on the immediate crisis. Do I have enough for the electric bill? How am I going to handle this unexpected $300 car repair?
And it's not your fault.
It's not your fault at all. It's a defense mechanism. But it's the main thing that keeps people stuck in that cycle until they consciously decide to interrupt it and replace it.
And this is what leads to that massive learning reversal we saw in the sources.
Yeah.
The scarcity thinker is always waiting for the money to come first before they start learning.
Precisely. Let's use that warehouse example from the sources. Think of someone struggling, working 2 jobs, buried in debt. Their internal story is almost always, once I get that 6-figure job, or, once I pay off my credit cards, then I'll start reading about investing.
They're putting the condition, the money before the cause, which is the knowledge.
Yes. And it creates this exhausting loop of inaction that they tell themselves is just being practical.
They're waiting for proof on the outside before they're willing to change on the inside.
Which is the exact opposite of the wealthy thinker. Their premise is, I need to learn about money and value creation so that I can create real money. The action, the learning, it all comes first. The money is just the lagging indicator of that internal shift.
That makes so much sense. And it ties directly into this psychological model, the identity behavior results chain. I think we need to spend a minute here because this is the engine of all change, isn't it?
It truly is. The IBR chain explains why just, trying harder or using willpower always fails in the long run. It works like this. First, you have your identity. This is who you fundamentally believe you are. For a lot of us, it's a fixed thing. I'm bad with money. I'm not a saver. I'm just not a business person.
Okay, so that's the starting point.
Then comes behavior. And your behavior is always, always consistent with your identity. If you believe, I am bad with money, you will avoid looking at your bank statements. You'll make impulsive buys that prove you're right. You'll avoid risk.
And then the third part, results, just locks it all in place.
Correct. Those behaviors produce bad results. Debt, no savings, feeling stuck, which then just reinforce the original negative identity. The loop is complete. So to break it, you can't just force a new behavior. You have to start with the identity. You have to start identifying, even in a small way, as a person who is learning about money.
It's about changing the direction of the ship, even if it's just 1 degree at a time. The identity sets the new course.
Exactly. It's about direction, not this impossible standard of perfection.
So now that we have that foundation, let's define these 2 psychological architectures. And I think it's so important to keep reminding everyone listening, this is about psychology, not about your bank balance.
That separation is absolutely vital. You can be a millionaire and operate from a place of deep scarcity.
And you could be working a minimum wage job and already be thinking with an abundance mindset.
Yes. So let's start with the scarcity mindset. Its foundation is just built on deep, pervasive fear. The main drivers are anxiety about not having enough, fear of losing what you have, fear of change, and just a total aversion to risk. It sees the world as a zero-sum game.
If someone else wins, I must be losing.
That's the one.
So if that scarcity mindset is running on fear, what does that little voice in your head actually sound like? What are those automatic thoughts?
The scarcity voice is like this internal defense lawyer that's designed to keep you from trying anything new. It just throws up these walls. You'll hear things like, I can't afford that, I never will. Or, what if I invest this and lose everything?
I need to play it safe.
I need to play it safe. The margin for error is 0. And often, a really critical one is about self-worth. People like me don't get rich. These thoughts are instantaneous, they're automatic, and they stop action before it can even begin.
It sounds like a really motivated internal saboteur, always arguing for staying stuck in the name of safety.
That's a perfect way to put it. Now, let's contrast that with the abundance mindset. The core driver here shifts completely. It's built on possibility, courage, and curiosity.
And this isn't about being delusional, right? It's not just blind optimism.
Not at all. It's a realistic willingness to engage with the world and to grow. Abundance thinkers understand that resources aren't zero-sum. Knowledge, skills, those are infinitely renewable.
So how does that inner dialogue sound different? How does it manifest?
The abundance thinker faces the same challenges, but their internal questions lead to action, not to avoidance. So instead of, I can't afford that, they ask, how can I afford this?
Which totally reframes it from a dead end to a problem to be solved.
It becomes a challenge of resourcefulness. Instead of, I'll probably fail, they ask, what skill do I need to learn to maximize my chances? And instead of just thinking about today, they project out, what could this investment become in 10 years? They see failure not as an ending, but as data.
That's such a huge psychological shift. One mindset shuts down all creativity and the other one basically demands it.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the key catalyst, the thing that bridges the gap between these 2 mindsets. The research we looked at makes a really critical point. You don't need money to start thinking abundantly. You need courage.
Courage.
Abundance is really defined by willingness. The willingness to be confused while you're learning something new. The willingness to try something you might fail at. The willingness to look foolish asking a basic question. Without that courage, the best financial opportunity in the world will just be wasted because of fear.
Okay, this is where we move from the theory into really actionable insights. We're going to break down the 7 specific psychological patterns, the 7 lenses, really, that separate these 2 ways of thinking. And for you, the listener, if you could start to identify where you currently fall on these 7 scales, you have an instant roadmap for where to put your focus.
Yeah, we've distilled these down because they really represent the most common points where people get stuck, where they self-sabotage when they're trying to move from that survival mode into wealth creation.
So let's start with the first, and I think the most foundational difference. Your time horizon. The scarcity thinker is stuck in day-to-day survival mode. The wealthy thinker is planning years ahead.
This one stems directly from that survival programming we talked about. When money is an existential threat, the only thing that matters is right now.
The rent that's due tomorrow is a 10-foot-tall problem. Retirement in 50 years feels like a complete fantasy.
It feels like a theoretical abstraction. So the scarcity thinker is always prioritizing immediate needs and immediate relief. They'll take the job that pays the most right now, even if it sucks up so much of their time and energy that they can't possibly build the skills to get ahead in 3 years.
So all of their decisions are optimized for reducing pain in the immediate moment.
Exactly, and that optimization guarantees they stay in the exact same cycle. The wealthy thinker, on the other hand, is almost always focused years ahead. They understand that real foundational stability isn't created by one lucky break. It's created by a sustained strategy over time. This is what allows them to make decisions today that are often uncomfortable, like investing part of their income or learning a difficult new skill, because they know they are funding the stability and freedom of their future self.
But I have to ask, because I know someone listening is thinking this, if you are genuinely struggling living paycheck to paycheck, isn't it a little bit patronizing to just say, oh, you should think long term? They have to focus on the immediate bills.
That's a very fair challenge, and we have to be nuanced here. We are not saying to ignore the bills, of course not. What we're saying is that even tiny mental shifts start to break the pattern. Long-term thinking, even when you're broke, means asking, what is one small skill I can start learning for 15 minutes a day this month that will increase my earning potential next year? It's shifting focus from just paying the bill to building a machine that makes paying the bill easier next time.
So it's about allocating even a tiny fraction of your mental energy to the future.
The moment you do that, you begin to break free from that fear-based short-term hypnosis.
Okay, difference number 2. This one feels like the key to resilience in today's economy. Scarcity thinkers look for security in a job. Wealthy thinkers find security in their skills.
This is a profound distinction. The scarcity mindset gets its entire sense of security and identity from a job contract, a single paycheck, a single job title, and this makes them incredibly vulnerable.
Because if the company restructures or your industry gets disrupted by AI,
or you just get a hostile boss, your whole financial world is on a knife's edge. Your security is external. It's tied to one employer.
So where does the wealthy thinker place their trust for resilience?
Internally. They rely on the intrinsic, portable value they carry inside them, their skills. The sources really stress that things like complex problem-solving, high-level communication, negotiation, sales, these are universal currency. These skills make you financially resilient because they live inside of you. No recession or boss can take them away. If you lose one job, you have a deep trust that you can apply those skills to a new job, a side business, consulting work, whatever.
So it sounds like the scarcity thinker wants stability of employment, but the wealthy thinker is aiming for stability of income generation capacity.
That's a perfect way to say it. One is passive and dependent, the other is active and self-reliant. The wealthy thinker is always intentionally building their skills, like they're constantly upgrading their own internal software.
Which explains why they might take a lower paying job for a little while.
Right, if it gives them access to high leverage skills or key contacts that they know will build a much higher income floor for them later on.
The third difference gets into our emotional relationship with money. For the scarcity thinker, money is. It's highly charged. It's either this acute danger or an immediate reward.
The emotional intensity here is huge. If money has always meant stress and shame and conflict in your life, you often see it as an active danger, something that causes pain and has to be handled with extreme caution.
Which leads to paralysis. You're too scared to invest or take any risks.
Exactly. Or, on the flip side, when a paycheck finally arrives, it's seen as an instant reward, a license to go spend, to relieve all the stress that built up over the last few weeks. That emotional view leads directly to impulsive behavior.
You're reacting to money based on your past trauma or your current emotional state, not logic.
You're using money to manage your feelings. But the wealthy thinker adopts a completely different stance. Money is viewed neutrally. It's just a functional tool. It's not a moral statement. It's not an emotional outlet. It is a vehicle that unlocks options, opportunity, and safety.
So what does that utility shift look like in the real world?
For the wealthy thinker, money's main purpose shifts from just paying bills or buying comfort to expanding life choices. They use it strategically to, 1, buy back their time by hiring help or automating things, 2, fund their education to build more skills, 3, generate more money through investing, and 4, provide a buffer against future shocks.
So they're allocating money based on what it can create for them in the future.
Exactly. Based on its capacity to generate more opportunity, not its capacity to provide instant emotional relief. This neutral view is what allows them to step back and make really strategic decisions, while the scarcity thinker is just constantly reacting to the emotional pull of the money itself.
That strategic neutrality is such a powerful shift. If you can stop seeing money as a source of stress and start seeing it as a tool for expansion, everything changes. Let's keep going with the final 4 differences. These seem to be about the subtle daily behaviors that either build you up or tear you down.
They really are. And these next few points require an active interruption of that deep, deep desire for immediate comfort.
Okay, the 4th big difference is the actual sequencing of how your money flows. Wealth creation means investing first. Scarcity means spending first.
And this is a direct measure of your trust and your time horizon. The scarcity sequence is so predictable. Income comes in, you pay your bills, then you buy some wants, and this is a huge if there's anything left, maybe you think about saving it.
But there's almost never anything left.
Rarely, because the brain prioritizes immediate comfort and relief. Investing feels distant, it feels risky. Why save for a down payment in 5 years when I can use that $100 to buy something that makes me feel good right now?
So the default is always satisfying the now.
Yes. The wealthy sequence flips this entirely. They operate on the principle of pay yourself first, and they automate it. Income arrives, and a fixed percentage is immediately sent to savings and investments. Then they live on what's left. And crucially, as the material points out, this difference is fundamentally about trust. The wealthy thinker trusts the future, they trust compound growth, they trust the process, and they trust their own ability to keep earning.
And that internal trust is what allows for the present-day sacrifice.
It allows them to delay gratification without feeling like they're being punished. If you don't trust the future, or you don't trust yourself, then putting money away today feels like you are permanently taking something away from yourself.
But if you trust the process,
the small investment today feels like you are paying the most successful version of your future self. That mental calculation changes everything.
Difference 5 is all about our commitment to knowledge. Scarcity thinking tends to stop learning after high school or college. Wealthy thinking sees continuous learning as a way of life.
This is less about getting more degrees and more about adopting an identity of growth. The scarcity limitation is so often rooted in shame and a feeling of resignation. The limiting beliefs are loud.
Like what?
Like, I should already know how to do my taxes, which makes them too embarrassed to ask for help. Or, I'm too old to learn a new digital skill, which shuts down entire income streams. Or, that's too complicated, I'm not smart enough. These are just psychological walls that prevent them from getting the exact knowledge they need to move forward.
So the door to getting better is locked by this fixed idea about their own intelligence.
Absolutely. The wealthy identity, though, operates from a place of curiosity and humility. They just assume they can always improve and that they can learn anything they need to. They prioritize investing their time and money into knowledge books, courses, mentors. They see it as the highest form of leverage.
They're not afraid of looking foolish asking a beginner question.
No, they're afraid of stagnating.
This one is so important because it really determines whether you stay in your comfort zone forever or step towards real opportunity. Scarcity avoids discomfort at all costs. Wealth understands that discomfort is a necessary part of growth.
This might be the hardest shift to make because avoiding discomfort is a basic survival instinct. If you grew up with financial instability, that feeling of discomfort, the anxiety of a new risk, the stress of a big decision, it historically signaled real danger.
So your brain learned, if this feels uneasy, retreat immediately, or something bad will happen.
Exactly. And that deeply ingrained avoidance strategy is what keeps people financially trapped in familiar, low-risk, low-growth situations.
So how does the wealthy thinker reinterpret that feeling of discomfort?
They see it not as a red warning light, but as a green light. It's a necessary signpost of growth. They understand that every single action that creates real upward mobility involves stepping outside the familiar. Think about it. Negotiating a higher salary is uncomfortable. Starting a business and dealing with cash flow anxiety is very uncomfortable. Investing a lot of money when the market is down is uncomfortable.
But there's a difference between that kind of discomfort and just being reckless, right? How do you know which is which?
That's a great question, and the distinction is vital. Recklessness is taking action without knowledge. It's betting money you can't afford to lose on a gut feeling. Embracing discomfort for growth is taking action with knowledge, but it still feels emotionally difficult. For example, you learn everything you can about real estate investing, you run the numbers, you secure the financing, but you still feel that knot in your stomach at 4 a.m. before you sign the papers. That is the discomfort of growth.
And the wealthy thinker pushes through that feeling.
They push through because they recognize that anxiety is the price of admission for the future reward. The scarcity thinker retreats because that same anxiety triggers all their old survival programming.
Let's move on to the final distinction. which is how they frame opportunity. Scarcity thinks in trade-offs. Wealth thinks in leverage.
The scarcity framing is all about limitations and losses. It's the either-or perspective. Their inner voice is focused on what they have to give up. If I invest in this course, I lose the cash and I might fail anyway. Or if I put money in the stock market, I can't touch it.
I can either buy a house or invest in my business.
Right. It restricts every decision to this zero-sum calculation, and it usually leads to doing nothing because the perceived loss always feels bigger than the distant gain.
The focus is purely on the cost of the transaction, not the potential return.
Exactly. The wealthy framing, however, is all about multiplication and upward mobility. It's always asking, what will this lead to? They ask, how can this one action create more opportunities later? How can this investment multiply my capital? If I spend $5,000 on a mentorship program, how many times over will that multiply my earning power in the next 5 years? That is the core of leverage.
Can you give us a really simple, beginner-friendly example of that leverage mindset?
Sure. Let's contrast two actions. Scarcity thinking sees buying a $40,000 car. The thought is, I get this nice new car, but I take on $40,000 of debt on something that loses value. I traded cash for comfort. That's a trade-off. Abundance thinking sees spending $4,000 on a digital marketing certification or a coding boot camp. The question they ask is, will this skill permanently increase my income by $10,000 or $20,000 a year? If the answer is yes, that $4,000 expense is an investment that provides 200 to 500% leverage on my future income.
It's about doing things today that actively expand your options for tomorrow.
That's it.
That distinction between a trade-off and leverage is just so profound. But it brings us right back to the emotional core of all of this. We can lay out all the logical steps, but at the end of the day, people are failing. Not because they can't do the math, but because of these deep emotional blocks that just cause them to self-sabotage.
The math is easy. The emotional negotiation is the hard part. The research is so clear that the financial ceiling for most people is actually an emotional one. When your brain thinks that success is going to lead to emotional pain like loneliness or judgment, it will automatically trigger self-sabotaging behavior to keep you in a place that's financially constrained but feels emotionally safe.
We have to talk about these 5 emotional patterns directly. Let's start with the classic, fear of failure. How does that show up in financial decisions?
Fear of failure is basically paralysis. If, in your past, making a mistake was met with punishment or shame or instability, your brain equates any financial risk with an existential threat, so you just don't act.
You don't apply for the promotion, you don't open the investment account.
You don't start the side business, you just stay in this holding pattern, not because you're lazy, but because failure carries this historical weight of trauma that you are subconsciously desperate to avoid.
And then there's the really sneaky one, fear of success. Why on earth would anyone be afraid of gaining money?
Because success means profound change, and change means uncertainty. If you've spent your life without financial stability, success forces you into this unknown, high-visibility role. It means more responsibility, more complex decisions, and dealing with judgment from other people.
So the familiar chaos of debt feels safer than the unknown demands of wealth.
For the brain, it often does. A lot of people subconsciously worry, what if I succeed and then I fail even harder? The fall will be so much worse.
The third pattern is about our social circle, fear of judgment.
This is the social price of ambition. People will deliberately stay small financially or hide their success to avoid being seen as arrogant or greedy by their friends and family. The sources show that the pain of being excluded from your group often feels way more immediate and dangerous to the brain than the slow pain of staying financially trapped.
You choose social harmony over your own financial freedom.
Which flows right into the fear of abandonment. This one is incredibly insidious. If you come from a family or a community that struggles financially, there can be this deep subconscious fear that if you achieve wealth, you will leave them behind and they will reject you for it.
So the brain calculates, if I succeed, I won't belong anymore.
Right. And so the person might sabotage a big raise by taking on a bunch of consumer debt where they constantly give their money away, making sure they always stay just constrained enough to still be one of the group. They prioritize that relational safety over their own growth.
And the final fear of being different, touches on our cultural identity.
Yes. If your identity is really tied to your working class roots, for example, achieving significant financial success can feel like a cultural betrayal. You might fear that wealth will make you unrecognizable or, morally suspect. So you self-sabotage to avoid that identity crisis, choosing the comfort of belonging over the opportunity to build a new future.
So if the brain's number one job is to keep us emotionally safe, then success is only possible if we can somehow decouple success from all of these emotional threats.
Precisely. And healing these patterns requires conscious awareness and gentleness. It's not about shaming yourself for having these fears. It's about noticing them, naming them, and then gently questioning where that old programming came from.
Let's bring this back to the engine of all this change: identity. We keep circling back to this one core truth. You will never sustainably outperform your own self-image.
That is the immovable law of personal transformation. If your core self-image is, I'm bad with money, then any successful financial action you take will feel like a costume, like you're just playing a role that isn't really you.
And that cognitive dissonance is exhausting.
It's exhausting, and eventually your behavior will snap back to align with that negative identity because it just takes less mental energy. Beliefs like, I'm not the kind of person who becomes wealthy, actively restrict what you're willing to do.
And that reinforcement loop we talked about earlier, identity creates behavior. Behavior creates results, and the results reinforce the identity. That's what can trap people for decades. So how do we break that loop without just relying on willpower?
We break it with tiny identity shifts, and we do that primarily by changing the language we use to talk about ourselves. We need to install an identity that demands forward direction, not immediate, flawless perfection.
You're aiming to become a person who does these things rather than already being perfect at them.
Exactly.
So let's get really specific with those language changes from the source material. How can someone start replacing those limiting statements today?
This is a daily practice. You have to stop using definitive, fixed language. So if you catch yourself saying, I'm bad with money, you have to immediately interrupt it and replace it with, I'm learning how to handle money.
That shifts you from being a fixed failure to being a student.
Right. If you believe, I can't save, you replace it with the proactive identity statement. I'm becoming the kind of person who saves. You're focused on the process of becoming, which is always achievable.
And what if you're feeling really defeated, thinking, I'll never get ahead?
You replace it with an empowering, measurable action. I'm building financial momentum, or I'm building my skill set, or I'm building clarity.
The power is in the verb learning, becoming, building.
It keeps the identity fluid and focused on forward motion, and it makes the new behaviors suddenly feel easier because they're in line with your new self-image.
That language shift is the ignition. Now let's look at the actual sustainable actions that flow from that new identity.
Yeah.
What are the day-to-day habits that really solidify a well-focused mindset? These are the systems that replace the need for constant willpower.
These 7 habits are the behaviors that just naturally emerge when you turn down the volume on that fear programming. They're built from intention, not from privilege. #TAG. The 7 habits of wealthy thinkers built on mindset. First, continuous learning. This flows right from that identity of being a student. They maintain the humility to invest their time and money into books, courses, podcasts. They ask questions. They assume there's always a new strategy to learn.
Second, weekly money check-ins. And this isn't about creating stress, it's about creating awareness.
Exactly. This is a gentle 10-minute ritual on a Sunday morning. You just check what came in, what went out, how are my automated investments doing. This ritual removes the fear of the unknown. Most people avoid looking at their finances because they equate awareness with stress. Wealthy thinkers equate awareness with control.
Third, building skills intentionally. This goes back to that idea of financial resilience.
It's the ultimate safety net. They focus on high-leverage, portable skills that create income outside of any one job. Things like communication, sales, digital literacy, project management. They prioritize skills that increase their value per hour.
Fourth, avoiding impulsive decisions. This is the pause button on emotion.
They intentionally put some friction between an emotional urge and taking action. They never make a big purchase under pressure. They have a standard 24-hour waiting period for any non-essential purchase over a certain amount. That simple pause lets the rational long-term brain take back control from the emotional brain.
Fifth, surrounding themselves with growth-minded people. The environment is so crucial.
It's arguably one of the hardest but most essential habits. If your social circle is constantly reinforcing a scarcity mindset, complaining, judging ambition, your personal growth will be a constant uphill battle. Wealthy thinkers actively seek out communities and mentors who normalize ambition and continuous improvement.
Sixth, automating money. The system beats discipline every time.
This is the cornerstone. They automate their savings, their investments, their bill payments. The money is allocated and moved before they even see it in their spending account. This removes the chance for emotional decision-making.
And the final habit, thinking in assets. This is a huge shift from consumption to contribution.
They're constantly asking, how can I buy something that puts money into my pocket instead of how can I buy something that makes me look richer? They prioritize buying things that appreciate in value or produce income assets over things that just lose value and provide status liabilities. ###B. Common money beliefs that act as invisible walls.
Okay, now let's quickly shine a light on those 7 common limiting beliefs that prevent these habits from ever starting. Just recognizing these is the first step to tearing them down.
These are the stories that have to be rewritten. Number 1, I'm just not good with money. This becomes that locked identity we talked about. 2, I'll start when I make more. This is just procrastination disguised as being practical, and it guarantees you never build the habits. 3, rich people are greedy. This creates a deep subconscious conflict. It leads to self-sabotage because you don't want to become someone you judge.
4, I don't deserve financial freedom. This ties your self-worth to struggle, and it can lead to punishing yourself when success actually starts to happen.
5, my family never had money, so I won't either. This is a complete refusal to believe in your own personal agency. 6, I need more discipline. This is a self-critical belief that ignores the fact that good systems are the real solution. And finally, number 7, I can't change. This is just who I am. That's the ultimate fixed identity, and it blocks any possibility of transformation.
The power here is just realizing that these are not facts. They're just stories that you have adopted, and they can absolutely be rewritten. Okay, so since this whole process has to be gentle and sustainable, let's detail that simple 4-step framework from the sources for gradually rewiring these deep beliefs. This is about small iterations, not some big dramatic revolution.
Exactly. This framework moves you from being controlled by a belief to simply observing it and replacing it, all without shame or forced positivity. Step 1 is awareness. This is the foundation. You just have to notice the limiting belief and see, without judging it, how it affects what you do. For example, I noticed when I thought about opening an investment account, I felt paralyzed. My belief is investing is dangerous and I'll lose everything. You just name the belief and the behavior it causes.
And step 2 is really important for removing the shame that's attached to that belief.
Step 2 is release. You detach from the belief by understanding why it's there. You acknowledge that it served a purpose in the past. Maybe it was trying to protect you when money was scarce. Releasing it means recognizing it's just old, outdated software, not a personal flaw. You thank it for trying to keep you safe, and you gently let it go.
Step 3 is the active replacement.
Step 3 is rewire. You gently replace the old belief with a more supportive, directional one. The goal is always to inject possibility. So if the old story was, investing is risky, the new one becomes, I'm learning to take calculated risks so my money can grow. The new belief just has to feel plausible, not delusional.
And finally, you have to create the proof.
Step 4 is reinforce. You repeat the new belief, and most importantly, you take small, aligned actions that create proof that the new belief is true. You automate a $5 weekly transfer to savings. You read one chapter of a book about investing. Each tiny success provides evidence that your new identity is real, and that repetition and proof eventually makes the new pattern your effortless default. #outro.
This deep dive has really provided a complete blueprint for shifting from that scarcity operating system to a wealth architecture. We've established that the work really begins not in your bank account, but in your mind.
So let's leave you with the 5 core truths that sort of summarize this whole journey. These can be anchors for your new mindset. 1, wealth starts in your mind, in your identity, not your current bank balance. 2, handling money well is a skill you can learn, not a destiny you were born with. 3, your past financial struggles do not define your future potential. 4, you don't need perfection, you just need direction and consistent, gentle action. And 5, mindset shifts create behavior shifts, which are what ultimately create lasting results.
And now for that provocative final thought for you to carry with you today. We spent some time talking about visualizing that calm, confident future version of yourself, the one who trusts themselves, who sees money as a tool, and who is no longer paralyzed by fear.
The challenge we want to leave you with is to recognize that this competent, successful version of you is already possible. They are not waiting for some huge external event. They are simply waiting for you to commit to the first small step of changing your thinking today.
That successful, confident person is simply the result of the identity you choose to install right now. The work doesn't start when the money shows up. The work begins today by consciously choosing to think and act like the person you're becoming.
Thank you so much for joining us and for your willingness to explore this path. We trust that you will use this blueprint immediately.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.